Let me show you something. Lakai, one of the most respected skateboarding shoes brands, is running a warehouse clearance sales right now. The founders, gone. The skaters who spent months rebuilding the brand, gone. And a new season drops this July without a single person who gave it its soul. And then you got GT Bikes. They dropped their entire BMX team. In the World Surfing League, they dropped Jeffreys Bay, one of surfing's most iconic events, from the 2026 tour, because they couldn't financially make it work. And breaking competing at the first ever Olympics at Paris 2024, already knowing it would be dropped from the next one. The LA organizers already made this decision months before even Paris happened. 4 sports, 4 headlines, and the same pattern. So today I want to walk you through 5 stages explaining the pattern that almost every underground sport goes through on its way into the mainstream. By the end of this video, you'll be able to look at any action sport and tell me exactly where it's at. So let's dive in. This is stage 1, the underground. Every one of these sports start the same way. A group of people, usually young, usually broke, and definitely not on TV. Figuring out how to do something nobody else is doing. No rules, no prize, no official anything. Just them, a piece of terrain, and the idea that is just worth doing. Let me give you some examples. Skateboarding started in California parking lots in the 1950s. Surfers who had nowhere to go when the waves were flat. BMX started in the early 70s. Kids in the California fields imitating motocross races on bicycles. And snowboarding was literally mountain surfers who weren't allowed on most ski resorts. Only one major resort opened its lifts to them in 1983. And even by the mid-80s, there were still only 40 resorts in the US that would let them ride. And breaking started in the Bronx in the 1970s. Block parties, hip-hop DJs, young people making something out of nothing. These sports have nothing in common on the surface, but in this stage, they have everything in common. Nobody owns them, nobody sets the rules, and the people are the whole sport. And it changes the moment someone out of the sport decides it's worth watching. And that is stage 2. The camera shows up. At some point, someone outside the sport sees it. Maybe it's a photographer, maybe it's a TV producer, and they think people want to see this. And for a while, that feels great because a sport gets actually seen. Skate magazines in the 1970s, Bone Brigade films, Snowboard magazine launched in 1985. All of these were made by people who generally love the sport. Riders supporting other riders. But then the bigger stuff starts. ESPN launches the X Games in 1995. They actually called it the Extreme Games at first. They renamed it the X Games in year 2 because X tested better with their advertisers they were trying to attract. If you want the full story on how the X Games came together and what happened since, I made a full video on that. But let's continue. NBC sees what ESPN built and launches the Gravity Games in 1999. Same logic, different network. Suddenly, action sports are on primetime television with corporate sponsors. And this is kind of the moment where money first shows up. And at first, it feels like a win for everyone. So from here, the trade-off starts. Stage 3. The money moves in. Athletes start getting paid. Real money, brands come in, prize pool appears, competitions get bigger, and the athletes, completely reasonable, take the deal. Because before this, action sports basically didn't have a financial structure. You couldn't really make a living doing it. And now, the games come in. Tony Hawk Pro Skater comes out in 1999. In 3 years, the number of skateboarders worldwide jumped 60%. From 7.8 million to 12.5 million. The game generates over $1 billion in sales. Overnight, skateboarding goes from something underground to a mainstream product. And BMX gets the same treatment a year later. Dave Mirra freestyle BMX drops in the year 2000. Same formula, different sport. And don't forget the Olympics. Snowboarding goes to the 1998 Olympics. Thierry Hakkerson, one of the best snowboarders alive at the time, looks at what the International Olympic Committee wants the sport to become and decides it's not worth the trade. He boycotts the whole thing. But most of his peers, they take the deal. And then we got climbing. Climbing goes to the Olympics in 2021. The format they go with combines 3 completely different disciplines: speed climbing, bouldering, and lead, into one single event. Lynn Hill, one of the greatest climbers ever, says it's like asking a middle distance runner to compete in a sprint. The climbing community is not happy, but it's in the Olympics. The sport gets bigger, more people discover it, and more people start doing it. And the people who build it start to lose the ability to say what it is. Which brings me to the stage that I think is most important. Stage 4, the split. This is where every extreme sport eventually ends up. On the one side, the commercial version. The TV broadcasts, league formats, brand deals, events to make sense to people that didn't grow up into the sports. And on the other side is the original community. They still do the thing they always did. But the version on the big screen is something different from what they know. You know what? In 2016, when the International Olympic Committee announced skateboarding was going to the Olympics, Treasure magazine reached out to 33 professional skaters and asked them how they felt about it. Nadia Houston, one of the most competitive skaters in the world, said, "Whether people like it or not, skateboarding is bound to grow into bigger things like this, sooner or later." And even Smith said, "Where are the Lost Boys going to if the attraction of creativity in skateboarding is gone?" And John Cardale, one of the most respected street skaters, put it simply, "Skating being an Olympic sport contradicts everything that I believe skateboarding to be. Same sport, same people, but a completely different view on whether the trade was worth making." And Lakai is kind of the clearest example of what this split actually looks like from the inside. When new owners wanted to make cuts, Mike Carroll and Rick Howard refused. Mike described it as, "It's like having a breakup or a divorce." They got pushed out anyway. And then the skater came in and spent months trying to rebuild it, fix the cash flow, repaired shop relationships, and put a new team together. This month, he got cut too. And the brand? It's running a warehouse clearance sale and launching a new season in July 2026. Just without a single person who gave it its identity. Stage 4 doesn't look like one big dramatic moment. It's just the people who gave the sport a soul losing the argument. One decision at a time. You don't lose a sport in one big moment. You lose it in 100 small decisions that each felt fine at the time. And from that split, we end up at the final stage. And that will tell you whether your sport made it through or not. Stage 5, the outcome. Survive or die. The outcome can go a few different ways. The first way, the underground survives alongside the commercial version. Skateboarding is probably the best example right now. The Olympics happened, XGL is happening right now, and at the same time, the street skating culture is still completely alive. Treasure still matters and the culture didn't get replaced, it just got bigger. You got 2 different things that share the same name, and they both exist next to each other. Though I will say, people doing skateboarding is actually down for the 2nd year. So that story is not fully written yet. The second way, the commercial version wins. And the original culture, it quietly disappears. The sport keeps existing on paper. Events, leagues, broadcast deals. But the thing that made people really want to do it in the first place, it's gone. It becomes something you rather watch than do. And surfing is probably the best example right now. The World Surfing League just hit 80 million annual viewers, up 40% year on year. Record audiences, biggest it's ever been, and at the same breath, They dropped Jeffreys Bay from the 2026 Championship Tour, one of the most iconic surf breaks in the world, because the event cost too much to run. The same organization is now exploring a sale, record viewership, drop beloved venues, and looking for a buyer. Those things don't fit on paper, but they completely make sense if you understand what the split in stage 4 actually does. And the third way, which is what happened to breaking, is that the commercial experiment just didn't work out. The sport gets packaged, it gets used, and it gets dropped when it's no longer convenient. Breaking competed at the biggest stage in the world, in a sport that already been cancelled. The athletes went to Paris, knowing that the next stop wasn't LA. That might be the most brutal version of this pattern. Here's the part I think most people miss though. Most people talk about this process like it's a sport's fault. Like if the community would have sticked more together, held the line harder, that the outcome would have been different. To be honest, I don't think that's right. The pattern is always driven from the outside. The sport didn't go looking for the camera went looking for the sport. The question that actually matters is whether the culture was strong enough or stubborn enough to survive what came next. So where does this leave us right now? Skateboarding is in stage 3 and 4 at the same time. Climbing is going through the split. BMX is trying to figure out what stage 2 looks like the second time around. Breaking somehow ended up in stage 5, without people realizing it actually passed stage 3. I've been in this world long enough to know what it looks like when a sport is crossing over and when a sport holds the line. And both can be right. So here's what I would love to know from you. Which sport is in which stage? If you have some ideas, like on which stage the sport is in, you can drop it in a comment. I would love to hear it, because I think there are some sports that are closer to stage 5 than anyone can realize. If you're new here and you would like to see more of this kind of video, hit subscribe. It's free and it really helps the channel. See you in the next one. Bye.